Hello Internet and welcome to Tromsø Twilight. This is my channel where I talk about music, books and movies. And today I'm going to be talking about the Tromsø Film Festival, which is in the city of Tromsø in Arctic Norway this week. It started on Monday and I have seen 4 movies so far. I'm hoping to see between 14 and 16 movies in the course of the week. Unfortunately, I have to work, so I can't see more movies than that, but 15, 16, I'd say it's respectable. So I'm just going to give a quick summary of the movies that I've seen so far, and I'm going to try to do at least one, maybe two more of these videos in the course of the festival, and then at the end I'll do a video focusing on my favorite film. The first movie that I saw at the festival, I saw at the student union here, and it's a movie called Exhuma, which is by a director called Jang Jae-hyun. He wrote, produced, and directed this movie. It's a supernatural film from Korea, which at the beginning introduces 4 characters. There's a shaman and her kind of sidekick or best friend, who's also a shaman, a geomancer, who's a guy who uses feng shui to find the ideal grave sites for people when they die so that their spirit won't come back and haunt their ancestors. And then there's his friend or best friend who seems to be a kind of funeral director type guy. And the premise at the beginning of the film is that a family of rich Koreans living in America have been cursed. The firstborn in each generation is haunted, and they have a new baby who, since he was born, has not stopped crying. So they hire the services of the shaman, and she introduces the other characters. They go and find a grave plot up on a mountain in Korea, which is the worst imaginable grave plot. It's in totally the wrong place. It's the ground is unpleasant. There are foxes, which is a bad omen. This is where the grandfather in the family was buried. The movie is very much bound up with Korean folklore and also the history of the relationship between Japan and Korea, Japan's colonization of Korea, um, and also the partition of the country. And so it's like both the country and the people are haunted. The film looks amazing. It's kind of 2 stories which are connected. So for some people it could feel a bit long or unwieldy. For my money, it really managed to handle its material. It was very creepy in the first half, and it turned more into a kind of supernatural adventure in the second half. So that movie I would recommend for anybody who's interested in unusual supernatural horror films or East Asian cinema, certainly. The second film that I saw was called Paying for It, which was directed by Sook-Yin Lee. She is a actor, filmmaker, and musician from Canada who used to be on Canada's version of MTV back in the 90s. She adapted the comic book of her friend Chester Brown, who wrote the book Paying for It, about his experiences going to see sex workers, full service sex workers, paying for sex, being a John. Sook-Yin Lee and Chester Brown were in a relationship in the 90s, and the movie begins with this, with the end of their relationship, and then follows her seeing other men and him beginning to pay for sex. It's made in a very quirky, Gen Xy, 90s grassroots cinema, low budget style, which made me really want to like it. And it shows her character is called Sunny in the movie, which I guess is the name Chester Brown gave her in the comic. Shows her in her work on the music channel, and they've created all of these kind of spoof 90s music videos with different genres of music, hip hop, punk, pop, which are absolutely great. And I really loved that. Also, she co-wrote the soundtrack, and the music is really beautiful. Unfortunately for me, the movie itself was kind of queasy, nausea inducing, anxiety inducing. I found the attitude towards sex work kind of unpleasant because Chester Brown is kind of supposed to be a sympathetic character in some way, um, but he seems to have no cognition of the fact. I don't know how to describe this. He has this very transactional attitude towards human relationships, and at certain points he's going to brothels where people are almost certainly survival sex workers. I just found the whole thing kind of uncomfortable. By the end of the movie, he's in a relationship with a woman who seems to be very comfortable selling sex, and their arrangement seems to be very mutually beneficial. But through a lot of the film, I found the attitude towards paying for sex to be kind of uninteresting on the one hand and misogynistic on the other, which is interesting because the film is actually written by Sook-Yin Lee along with another woman. So what do I know? I'm a guy, but it made me uncomfortable. Third film I saw was Dead Talents Society by second-time director John Shu, who is from Taiwan. He wrote the film along with Kunlin Tsai. This is an very unusual, extremely well made, very fast paced horror comedy about ghosts doing a kind of reality TV type of thing in the next life, where their goal is to scare people as well as possible in order to keep attention on them. Because if they lose attention, if people are not scared, then they lose their position in the afterlife and they disintegrate. It follows a young girl who is very bad at scaring people, who falls in with a kind of chosen family in an old hotel, and tries to become a kind of celebrity ghost. It satirizes influencer culture. It creates a very convincing and quite charming universe. I really liked it. It's very fun. It's not scary. Typically, I don't like horror comedy, but this film was very sweet and also very kind of goofy and entertaining. And although it followed quite an established arc in kind of coming of age movies, it wasn't necessarily predictable. The last movie I'm going to talk about in the video today is called The Assessment. It is the fourth film that I saw at the festival. I saw it last night in the largest screen at the cinema here. It was basically full. The director was there to give an introduction and a Q&A afterwards. The movie is called The Assessment, and the director's name is Fleur Fortuné, I think is that how you pronounce it? She's French. Um, and the movie itself is a kind of dystopian sci-fi thriller where the concept is that in a not too distant future, people live within a dome which is protected from radiation and bad weather outside. Within the dome, there's only resources for a given number of people. So if you want to have children, you have to apply and you have to go through a rigorous assessment, the contents of which nobody knows until they actually do it. So the film begins with the assessor coming to the house of this couple, and she's going to live there with them for 7 days to subject them to a series of tests. The assessor is played by Alicia Vikander, who was in Ex Machina and The Danish Girl, and her performance is absolutely incredible. She's playing opposite Elizabeth Olsen, and their dynamic, their chemistry is off the charts in this film. The movie also looks very beautiful, from the set design to the costumes to the way that it's shot. It's really impressive for it to be a first-time director's movie, which I believe it is. She was there to talk about her inspiration for the film, which was really quite moving because she was trying to do IVF, and she also was looking into adoption. She didn't say whether she ever actually got a child in the end, but she was talking about how if you have children by some other means than kind of the traditional inception, you're faced with all of these questions about your motivations, about the future, about your beliefs, about what you're willing to sacrifice. And the film kind of stages a lot of these questions around the relationships between mothers and daughters. I think it's really good. I would recommend it. It's obviously a touchy subject project for some people, but in my opinion, it was really well handled. So that is the first of my summaries from the film festival here in Tromsø. It's called TIFF, which is kind of funny because that's the same as the Toronto International Film Festival, Tromsø International Film Festival. It's been going for 35 years. Everybody in Tromsø is very excited about it every year. And I will come back to you and tell you some more about other movies that I see later in the week. If you don't know me and you have just landed on this channel coincidentally by accident, please leave a message in the comments, like, subscribe, or if you hate me, just ignore it. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.